So Trey Wingo just dropped a bombshell on the nation. Supposedly, the Dallas Cowboys have reached out to the Raiders, inquiring about a trade for one Mr. Maxx Crosby, the elite edge out of Las Vegas. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what this trade would look like and the salary cap implications. I put out some information earlier this morning, just some basic generic stuff, and that was based on overthecap.com. Now Spotrac is reporting something differently. We saw a tweet from them just a little while ago, and it kind of flips what I thought this morning around on its head, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute. But let's start with the trade requirements to make this go through, okay? We don't really know what the Raiders would be looking for in a potential trade situation, if they're even looking to shop this guy. If the Raiders are looking to shop Crosby, all right, my guess is they are not going to settle for just a first-round pick and a backup player, right? Or like a first and a fifth or whatever that might be. I have a feeling that his value would be 2 firsts, a first and a third and a player, maybe a first and a second, and you get, I mean, I don't know, but it's going to be substantial because this is one of the best defensive edges in the entire NFL, and that is a premium position. You just saw Micah Parsons. He fetched 2 firsts, and a lot of people think that was an undersell. The Packers didn't give up enough for that. Maxx Crosby's right up there with Micah. Maybe not. I know he has more sacks, right? Pressures aren't as good. He might not be as good of a pass rusher as Micah, but he's close. It's very close. Definitely better in the run game, a better all-around player, in my opinion. So, I mean, his what he's going to fetch in a trade, it's got to be very close to Micah Parsons, okay? And that was with Micah also getting a new deal for $48 million average a year as well, okay? So keep that in mind. Maxx Crosby, his trade value is not going to be low. All right, I know the Raiders might be sellers because they're not a very good team. They're looking to rebuild, but he's going to cost you some draft capital. And the question is going to be, is it better to load up this offense with George Pickens, really overpay, just put all your money into the offense, and hopefully you can draft some guys that come in and make an immediate impact and are cheaper, right, to offset that expensive talent? Or is it go ahead and pay the offense, get these guys signed, go ahead and bring back George Pickens, and also you're going to add another guy who is rather expensive on the defense, but not as expensive as I thought. And here's what Spotrac is reporting. This is very different than my understanding earlier today on what I had put out there in the Twitterverse. So I assumed the Cowboys were going to be responsible for about $35 million of his contract. I thought that the Raiders had a $5 million responsibility towards that cap number. I was incorrect according to Spotrac. All right, the Raiders are actually responsible this year for $18 million in dead cap. All right, so that means this year the Cowboys would only be responsible for $20.3 million of his guaranteed contract. Okay, 2026, $30 million. Okay, and this is according to, again, Spotrac. All of his guarantees are fully vested after 2027. All right, so it's basically a $2.5 $80 million contract. The cap hits are 20.3, 30, and 29 for those 3 seasons. Okay, you can move on after that if you want to, but the following 2 seasons is 27 and 28 million if you want to retain him. You can extend him at that point. I mean, you could do a plethora of things. Okay, you're probably still going to want to restructure some guys. Okay, maybe even restructure. I wouldn't even touch Crosby's deal. I would maybe restructure CD. They constantly restructure Dak, so what the hell? Let's throw another Dak restructure in there, because you got to have some operating room right throughout the season to keep your team going for practice squad elevations, free agent pickups that you might need to replace injured guys. So you got to have some operating room. So they'll have to probably restructure somebody to make this work. But that is not as bad as I thought it was going to be this morning. So that definitely leaves you next season some wiggle room to get a deal done with George Pickens. And again, you'll have to just move money around, do some restructures. That Dak Prescott restructure is always attractive. CD at that, I mean, if you want to restructure Crosby, have at it, I guess. But there'll be guys to restructure. You can move on from guys like Terrence Steele, save a little bit of money at that point. Some of the safeties, there's a little bit of money tied up in them, but there's definitely some things you can do to make it work. And I tell you what, over the last half hour, this deal has gotten much more enticing to me, knowing that those numbers are not as bad as I had originally thought. So making a trade for Maxx Crosby and also retaining George Pickens is definitely palatable. It's something that you can do. Now, obviously, the more higher end players you add, the more you pay these guys, the more you're going to suffer down the trough. So some of the depth is going to suffer by giving up one maybe 2 first-round picks, or 1 plus a second or a third or whatever it's going to be for Crosby. You're losing out on some of those cheaper deals where the rookies can overperform those deals for 3 to 4 years, even 5 if you want to, optimize that first-round pick in his 5th-year extension or his 5th-year option. You can always do that. So you're losing out on that. But for a guy like Crosby, who in a year where this team is just humming offensively, and he could instantly improve probably your whole defense, right? Because pass rushers, that's just what they do. Edges will improve everybody around them. It makes your corners better, makes your linebackers, your safeties better, especially a guy who can play the pass and the run like Crosby. I was pretty against this morning around 8 a.m. when I put out those numbers in that video. I flopped on this. I have flopped, and I am now on the, with these new numbers, I am now on the let's go ahead and acquire Maxx Crosby wagon. If the Raiders are looking to sell, that's going to be the big question now in my mind, is are the Raiders actually looking to move on? And it has to be palatable as far as the draft capital that you give. I don't really want to move on from 2 firsts. You just got 2 firsts. If you want to give away a first and something else like a player, it's fine. Depends who the player is, but I can stomach that. Other than that, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Is this something you guys want to see the Cowboys do? Is this a move that is possible for Dallas? Do you think the Raiders are interested? Let me know what you think.